Hi there everyone and welcome to GCSE Maths with ICS Learn. My name is Melissa Lieberman and I work as the in-house maths teacher at ICS Learn. I'm your host for this evening session. I'll also be running a lot of these online classroom sessions, but I'll also be handing over to some of my colleagues for some of the sessions this year. I'm hoping that Ian Howie will be running some of them. We've also got Ian Howie, Stephen Mathis, who's joining us this evening, and I'll be introducing you to some of our tutors as I go through. Now, you can contact me anytime, as well as your allocated tutor. You can contact me at my email, mathsteacher@icslearn.co.uk. Any email that you send to that address will go straight through to me. And you can also phone me direct during office hours, 0800 092 0070, and that will take you through to my phone at my desk in the office. So this evening I'm going to introduce you to the course. There's quite a lot to get through. Now you might think an hour is ages. I'll try, it will fit in an hour, don't worry. It's a one-year course, so it's a big course and there's quite a lot to go through. And what I try to do in these sessions is I get questions all the time, is I try to answer all of the most frequently asked questions when people write to me, and hopefully I'll be able to cover everything. But if I forget anything, if I leave anything out, if you're watching live, you can type into that chat box. I'll keep an eye on that. Is it Taiba? I just saw your question. You're a bit confused. Well, hopefully I can answer any questions that you've got. If I don't answer your question, type it into the chat box or email me if you're watching the recorded version and I'll help you out. Or you can use the contact your tutor link to contact your tutor. But I'll go through everything here. Now, before you watch through this session, hopefully you'll have had a chance to watch the induction video. If you want to watch that, then all you need to do is go to your main course page, click on Getting Started with your course, and you'll find a link to the induction video in there. Now I can see some questions popping up, maybe people talking to each other. I'll sort that out in just a second. One of the hazards of running a live session. So have a look at the induction video. If you don't want to watch it as a video, you can also just read through the transcript, and that will talk through more general things like how to contact your tutor, how to read through the student handbook, and basically how to find your way around the site. And I'll try not to repeat too much of that here. What I'm going to do here is just talk about things that are specific to the GCSE Maths course. You should also read through your student handbook, as that will give you all the important course information as well. I can see that a couple of people are having problems connecting to the audio, so I'm just going to briefly pause the recording to see if I can help those people out, and then I'll start the session back up again. Just give me a second. Okay. Hopefully those sound issues have been fixed for those people. So here's what I'm going to go through in this session very briefly. If you are not interested in any of these sessions and you're watching the recorded version, then you can kind of use the scroll bar at the bottom to go to the bit that you want. I'm going to start with how to watch the online classroom recordings, because this is an online classroom recording and I think it's quite important that you understand the features of how these work, especially if you're watching the WebEx webinar version, because you can watch these as a slideshow. You don't need to watch them as a video at all. Watch the WebEx versions if you can. Use the YouTube ones only if you can't run WebEx for whatever reason, and I'll explain why that is. I'm going to introduce your tutors. All the things that you need before you start. Now, you're raring to go, but there are some things that you'll need to get hold of before you get started. I'll give you some useful websites for learning maths, the best way to work through your course materials, and at the end I will talk through exams and give you a chance to ask me any questions. So first of all, these online classroom recordings, I've started calling them classroom recordings. You might hear them being referred to as webinars. Some of you have been to webinars, some of you haven't been to webinars, but that's basically what it is. It's not a video as such. Any of the videos that you watch on YouTube are recordings of a webinar sessions, and they're recorded live, and there's lots of people watching live and chatting in the chat box. So it's important that you kind of get the hang of that. That's why some of them are a bit long, because I might be waffling or something. But we're trying to replicate as close as we can being in a real classroom session. And as I go through the actual content. Obviously tonight I'm just giving you an introduction, but as I start going through the lessons, hopefully it will have that feeling of being in a real classroom, as close as we can get to that. So to access the recorded versions, now obviously you can come to the live sessions, but they're just repeats of the ones that are there already. So please don't feel if you're working through the recorded versions that you're missing anything. Some of the live ones, some things might have changed a little bit, but the actual content will be the same. GCSE 9 to 1 is still the same syllabus. So if you're watching the recorded versions, you're just watching a repeat of the live sessions, and everyone will be at a different start point. Don't feel that you're falling behind or that you're missing anything, because I just repeat the same ones each year. So work through the recorded versions at your own speed. A few people still having sound issues. Hopefully, I'm just going to have to ignore sound problems for the moment, because I need to get through quite a lot of content. Okay, fingers crossed that person will sort that out. So to watch the recorded sessions, you can go into the My Learning section, and what you'll see that for each unit, you've got 4 units in GCSE Maths. When you go into the unit, start with Unit 1, you'll see a section in there, for example, Unit 1, the basics, online lesson recordings. If you click on that, you'll see all of the previous recordings in order, and you can just work through them in order. And you can either watch them as slideshows, as I mentioned, or you can watch them as videos. The video isn't as good. If you want to watch it as a slideshow, if you want to have all of the interactive features and be able to access all of the hyperlinks that I'll be posting in the chat box, then what you need to do is click on where you see WebEx link. Now, the first time you press that, you'll be prompted to run an add-on, but once you do that, you won't need to do it anymore unless you're using a new device or a new browser. If you click on the YouTube link, that will just be a recording of the webinar, so it won't be as high resolution. So you can choose which one you prefer to watch. So this is Unit 1, 16 sessions. Each session will take you an hour or 2 to work through, and then you'll spend an hour or 2 working on practice questions. So it will take you, depending on how many you do a week, I would say 2 a week would be a good rate to work through those. And as you go through them, I give you links to further practice questions in the course materials. So I would always recommend that you start with the online session, and then from there do the practice questions. If you click in resources, you'll also find a study plan. Now, this study plan will also be very useful because that has an overview of all of the online sessions for the whole course. So if you go into the study plan in the resources section, I've got a copy of the study plan here. I'll just click on there. So this is what the study plan looks like. And this will help you to plan your time. And if you print this out, you can write in target completion dates. So say you're aiming to do 2 sessions a week, you can write in the date that you think you should be completing that session. So for each one, allow, I would say, 4 hours would be reasonable, because you need to watch the session, make notes, work through practice questions. Some people might even spend longer than that. And then when you finish working through the work for that topic, make sure you click one of these boxes to rate your confidence level. So if you're really happy with the section and you find it quite easy, click a smiley face, and so on. If you find it hard, click the sad face. Don't spend too long. I mean, never spend more than 1 week on any section. Click the sad face, and that's just a note to yourself to go back to that section later. What you'll notice as you work through the course materials is that anything important is revisited as you work through. So Unit 1 targets roughly grades 1 to 3, that's old grades E to D. Then you've got Unit 2, so it's about 16 lessons there for Unit 1, 16 sessions. Then you've got Unit 2, and then Unit 3, that goes up to a grade 5. And then lastly, you've got Unit 4. You only need to do Unit 4 if you're planning to sit the higher tier exam, and I'll talk a little bit more about higher and foundation tier later on. So download the study plan. All of these links are active, so if you download the study plan, you can also use those links to watch the sessions as you work through. So if you do nothing else, download the study plan, work through the online sessions, either as a slideshow or as a video, and then tick it off. And if you go through all of that in order, you'll cover everything that you need to know. I've also put in links to practice exam papers at the end of each section. So when you finish Unit 3, you'll be able to practice foundation tier exam papers. When you finish Unit 4, you'll be able to practice higher tier exam papers. So allow yourself roughly 6 months to a year to work through all of that. Go back to my slides. Okay, any questions about the study plan? The study plan, is in the resources section. So I'm just going to go back a couple of slides. So when you log into your main course page, let me just turn on the pointing tool. Log into your main course page, and then where you see resources, click on that. That will take you to a page like this, and at the very top of the page, you'll see study plan for GCSE Maths. Whenever you see an icon like this, that stands for a PDF. So it will take you to a PDF, which you can then just print out. Underneath that is the link to your e-textbooks. Is that okay? On the tablet. 4 hours a week. 4 hours to do one session. So I'm guessing 4 hours. It depends, but 4 hours might not be enough. If you've got a year to work through everything, then maybe 4 hours would be enough. It depends how long you want to spend on the course and what grade you're hoping to achieve. So I would say 4 hours for each session. Does that make sense? Because you need 1 hour at least to work through the session, and then at least 3 hours or 2 or 3 hours working on practice questions. Okay. Now, once you load the WebEx session, you'll see something like this. So you've got a participant panel, which is the names of all the people that are there at the live session. If you want to close that down, you just press the little X. You've got a table of contents, and that is what you can use to watch it as a slideshow. So if you don't want to hear me, if you don't want to see me, that's absolutely fine. If you want to go through the slides more quickly, that's the way to do it. All you need to do is turn off the video. So that's the advantage of watching the WebEx session. So the names of all the slides are here. You can just click on any of those to go through the slides at your own speed. And you've got a play button here at the bottom, and that's where you click to mute the sound. As I go through, I like to type hyperlinks in the chat box to make things a little bit more active. So, for example, if you open up the chat box, if you're watching the recorded version, you have to open that up first. So you click on, don't worry if you're watching live, that doesn't apply to you, but when you're watching the recorded versions, you need to click on, go to view at the top, click on chat, or click on that little cloud button there, and that will open up a chat box like the one that you see here. Now, from time to time, I'm just going to do this here, I type a link into the chat box. So those of you watching live and those of you watching the recorded version, you should see a link appear there in blue in that chat box. So if you're watching live, click on that link and it should take you to the Edexcel page for GCSE 9-1 Maths. So that's the specification page. So I just want you to test that now. Click on that and tell me if it opens. A few people still sorting outside. So click on that link, it opens. So this makes the sessions much more interactive. It means that if I want to send you straight to a page in the textbook or to a useful website or to more practice questions or to another video, I can just paste the link in there. You can click on it and it will open up. Okay, if you're watching the recorded version, I can't do that in the YouTube versions because doesn't work in the same way. So that's why it's better to watch these WebEx ones if you can. Okay, guys, you've all got that page open, and keep that page open and have a look at it after this session ends if you've got time, or save it to your favourites. Scroll down it, and you've got things like the specification and all the information about your qualification on there. Okay, good, great. Now, if you want to watch this webinar as a slideshow, mute the sound by clicking on the little sound icon down there at the bottom. That way you don't need to hear my annoying voice. Close the video feed by clicking the little X there. You can always turn it back on again if you want to using the view options. And then just click through the slides. And if you, some people sometimes write into me and say, can I have your slides? Why can't I watch it as a slideshow? Well, you can. You just go to the table of contents and then press the down button. Click, 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 and go through the slides any speed you want, writing them out. So you can also watch it as a slideshow. Okay, everyone has got the link working there, which is brilliant. good that that's working. If you are watching the YouTube version, I will say please make sure that you will watch it in the full screen, because otherwise the writing on the slides will be very small, especially if you're using a smaller device. So always make sure that you're watching the YouTube version in a full screen view. When you open it up in YouTube, I've pasted the links underneath the video. It's the only way that I could do it so that they would still work. So any links which I give during the session will be pasted there underneath. You just click on show more at the bottom, and then you'll be able to click on those and open them up. Right, I'd like to just quickly say hello to our tutors. We've got 4 tutors on the course at the moment, including myself. Oops, nearly knocked over my glass of water, including myself. So as I said, my name's Melissa. That's a picture of me graduating in 1995. I got a maths degree, and from getting a maths degree, I went straight to university and did a PGCE. From there, I went straight into teaching in secondary schools, and I've taught GCSE and also A-level for a number of years. I actually also worked for quite a long time in educational publishing, producing resources for interactive whiteboards. So probably in the last 20 odd years, I've spent just as much time teaching in the classroom as I have teaching online and producing online resources. And I've been working for ICS Learn since about 2013. So that is a fair amount of time. I can see Stephen typing there. He's one of our tutors. So I'll let. I don't know, Stephen, if you just would you be happy for me to turn on your sound for a moment, or do you just want to type in the chat box? I know Stephen's got some young children at home, so he might not want to he might not want to speak directly online. So we've also got Ian Howie. Ian Howie lives in Scotland in Stirlingshire. So he's a retired teacher, but he's also very, very experienced and has been working with online students since the 1990s, back when I was still at university. So he's very, very experienced. So if Ian Howie is your tutor, he's also around sometimes during the day if you want to speak to him. I didn't see that. Is it happy birthday, Stephen? I've missed that. I'm losing track of the conversation. It's hard for me to speak and read the chat box at the same time. Ailey's one of our newest tutors. She, until very recently, has been working in a further education college. She's also a GCSE exam marker for Edexcel. So if you've got any questions about exams or tips for getting, good marks in your exams, if she's your tutor, then she'll be able to give you lots of advice. And she also completed her maths degree through the Open University, so she's got lots of experience of working in a distance learning environment and working with adult learners since she worked in a further education college. Now we have Stephen, who's here with us online. Stephen works in Belfast, but I'll let him say hi. He's been chatting to students there already. I can see his name popping up in the chat box. So Stephen, I don't know if you want to add to that there, or if you want me to turn your sound on. Just let me know. I can unmute you if you want to say hello. Let me know. Are you still head of year 7? I wasn't sure if that was still accurate, or if you'd moved to another position now. So are you still head of year this year? I'm imagining things must be really busy with the year 7s coming up. I know my kids have just started. Well, I've only got one child left in school now. My middle child's just about to leave for university, but one of my nieces has just started the equivalent of year 7 here in Scotland. Must be a lot of work. So Stephen, very busy, working in school all day and helping our ICS Learn students in the evening. And it's a boys' school, isn't it? Must be hard work. I don't miss being in the classroom. I must say I'm quite happy doing webinars, 11 to 18. And Stephen also teaches GCSE and label. So another very experienced teacher. I think between the 4 of us, we must have, I don't know, maybe 100 years teaching experience, I'm guessing, between the 4 of us. So, you are in really good hands. We've got a really experienced tutorial team here. So feel free to carry on chatting to Stephen there in the chat box, and I'll move on. Now, if you want to get in touch with your tutor, you should have received a welcome email from them by now. But all you need to do is go into the Connect and Communicate section, and then right at the top you'll see the name of your tutor. So the name of your tutor will be there. And then if you click on that, it will give you a little bit more information about them. And if you want to contact them, you just click on this link and you'll go to a special forum, which is just between you and your tutor. But I explain all of that in the induction, so I won't cover that here. You just click in there, type your message, and they will be emailed. You can also contact me using this this forum. But if you type in there, that will be visible to all of the other maths students on the course. So that's how you get in touch. So just in summary, here are all the contact details. As I mentioned, you can contact me, you can contact your tutor, unless your tutor is me, in which case you'll still be contacting me. You can use these forums. There's also a Talk to Other Students forum. I don't think anyone at the moment has posted anything on there yet, so it would be nice to go on. So you're all meeting other people on the course now here in the chat box. So if you want to send a message, maybe say a little bit about yourself and your background, and you might be able to make a few online GCSE Maths friends using that Talk to Other Students forum. If you've got any questions that are not maths related, then please get in touch with Student Services. Their contact details are at the bottom of all the pages on the ICS Learn Student Community. Just scroll down to the bottom of the page and you'll see them there. Thanks so much, Stephen, for answering those questions. That's really helping me out. So it's hard for me to see that. So Stephen will be answering your questions as well as I go through. That will help me. Okay. Right, very quickly, what you need before you start. I know you're raring to go and want to get straight into doing some work on factors and multiples. First thing, this is really important. Please get lots of file paper. The best way to learn maths is to do maths, and that means writing out all of the problems. Don't just read maths and expect it to just go into your brain. You need to work things out as you go through. So whether you're watching the online recorded sessions, whether you're working through problems and they're on the screen, even though they're on the screen and you're writing in your answers, you need to work them out. So you need to work them out on paper and then type in your answer. And I really would advise you to make it nice and neat, make it in a format that you can go back and revise from. So as you're working through the online resources, copy out the notes, keep it nice and neat, read back over it when you're revising, and just keep working things out. Practice, practice, practice is the best way to learn maths and to increase your confidence with maths. So lots of paper and lots of writing things out, please. Please buy a calculator as soon as you can, and the reason for that is that I think people sometimes forget that part of learning maths is knowing how to use your calculator. Now, while you might have a calculator on your phone or on your tablet, you won't be able to use that in the exam. So the calculator you buy is the one that you need to get used to, the one that you need to learn how to use, and the one that you'll use in the exam. And 2 of your exam papers will be calculator papers. The calculator that I recommend is this Casio FX85 GT Plus. You might see it called 83 GT Plus. The only difference is that one is solar powered and one runs on batteries. You can get them on Amazon. Should maybe cost not more than £10, but it's available in all major supermarkets as well. You will also need geometry equipment. You'll need a pair of compasses. You'll need a protractor, you'll need you'll need a ruler. But a basic geometry set like this will maybe cost £1 or £2 if you're in the UK. I can't. There's too many people in the webinar, so I can't keep track of all of the questions. I'll take a look at them later, and if Stephen hasn't managed to answer any of them, I'll email you later on if I can. So geometry equipment, because there will be an element of things like construction and loci and things like that will need you to be able to use this, and you'll be drawing graphs and things like that, and that will come up in the exam. If you look at the instructions at the front of any of the exam papers, it tells you the things that you will need for the exam. So you'll need a ruler, has to be in centimetres, you'll need a protractor, a pair of compasses, pen, HB pencil and eraser. And for the calculator paper, you'll need a calculator. So those are all the things that you'll need to bring to every exam when you sit the exams. We provide you with 2 complete GCSE textbooks. They're online digital versions. Now, every now and then people say to me, I would rather have a hard copy of the book. You can buy that if you want, but they're quite big and bulky, so I wouldn't generally recommend that you do that. But if you really do want to buy a paper version of the book, here is a link. Although you can print any of the pages from here if you need to. So I think it would be easier if you can to just use the digital versions. They're very in-depth, and maybe a bit too in-depth for most people. So if you're just revising, there's maybe a bit more than you need in these books. And we give you the online versions. If you want to access those digital textbooks, you need to go into the resources section on your course page. You need to scroll down to where you see e-textbooks. You're given some instructions here for setting them up. Once you've set them up, you never have to read that bit again. And so then to access your actual books, you see this green jigsaw puzzle piece here. Let me just change that. So you just click on that green jigsaw puzzle piece, and that will launch your textbooks. Directly underneath that, we have put links to the answer books, links to the foundation answer books, and links to the higher tier answer books. I should probably mention as well that the foundation tier book and the higher tier book are very similar. There's an awful lot of overlap of content. It's just that the higher tier book has got some extra content for people aiming for the higher tier paper. So if you do buy the book, don't buy both. Either buy the foundation or buy the higher, but don't get both because you'll just be wasting your money. They cost about £20 each, so one or the other depending on which exam you want to do. And once you load your digital textbooks, you will go to this bookshelf page, I think it's called. So once you've set up your account, you'll need to click. The first time you'll need to give an email address. You'll also need to enter a password, and then it will just open the foundation tier book by default, and you'll get these two books here. So I'm just going to give you a link here. This is a link to the bookshelf page, but this link will only work once you've set up your account. So if you want to save that to your favourites, it means you can go straight to this bookshelf page. When you open the book, it will look something like this. So I've opened up the table of contents here, and I did that by clicking on this button here in the side ribbon. If you have the foundation tier book open and you want the higher tier book, you need to click on this house button. And clicking on that house button in the top left-hand corner will take to the bookshelf so that you can access the other books, so you can switch between the books. Clicking on this magnifying glass will let you search for a particular term, so you can go through and search through the books. Other useful buttons are at the bottom left-hand corner. You can type in a page number, and that will take you to any page in the book. If you hover over the left or the right, you'll be able to turn the pages, go through the pages. You'll be able to print any of the pages in the book. So if you want to print a couple of the pages, don't print all of it, but if you want to print a couple of the pages, take it on holiday with you or on the train and answer some of the questions, then you can do that too. I'm looking at a couple of the questions, so hopefully someone's able to help with those. So Emma Louise Stubbs, you can choose whether to do the foundation or the higher tier. In fact, most of our students do sit the foundation tier exams because the foundation tier exams are much more difficult than they used to be and go up to grade 5, which is like an old GCSE grade B-. So when it comes to booking your exams, you decide whether you do foundation or higher. But I'll go through that in just a moment. Okay, so that's how you navigate around the textbook. Notice at the start of each chapter they have something called a launch pad, and that's just everyone is at a different level in their learning. If you go to one of these sections, for example, step 1, and you find that you can answer all of those questions quite easily, then it means that you don't need to do that section in the textbook. You can go on to the next section. But if you can't answer the questions, then you go on to the section. So this flowchart is to just give you an idea of what you can do already and what you might still need to learn. And if you can't answer these questions, don't panic. It just means that you need to work through that section in the book. Also note that our course notes do not follow the textbook in the same order. We've structured our course notes in a completely different way. So use the textbook as a resource. It's not designed for you to work through cover to cover. It's there for you to dip in and out of to practice some of the ideas that we introduce in the main parts of the course. So we structure our learning materials so that they get progressively more difficult, whereas the textbook just covers everything all at once. Okay. So if you want to go through the book in order, you can. but it's not unless you're very confident, it's not the way that I would usually recommend doing it. And your tutor obviously has a copy of this book. They've got a copy of the online version, so they can help you with any of the questions in this book. And if you're working through the book and you're stuck on a question, it might be an idea, you can't see it here in this view, but at the very top of the page in the address bar you'll see a URL, so you can copy that and paste it to your tutor, or if you click on this button here in the bottom right hand corner, that will give you a link to that page in the book, and you can send that to your tutor, and then your tutor can click on it and then go exactly to the page that you're talking about, or just tell them the exercise and question number. Now, if you're finding those textbooks really hard, if you're really not confident with maths, here are some alternative books that you might want to take a look at. The first is this Foundation to Your Workbook, which is really very good. It's got lots of blanks. You just write your answers in the blanks, so it's a lot easier to work through than that textbook, so you can use that instead. And if you really feel that you are maybe not quite at GCSE level yet, for example, some of the Unit 1, even though it's the start of GCSE, still might be quite difficult and challenging for some people. You might want to get a Key Stage 3 book. So Key Stage 3 covers years 7 to 9. It's all the same maths and will actually cover up to about the level of a grade 4 GCSE. So if you would rather have that, I apologise for not being. I'm trying not to read the chat because I won't get through everything if I start reading through the chat right now. You can click on there. Okay. Of course, as Stephen is saying, all of this is being recorded, and I will email all of you with a link to the recorded version later on, so you can go through it in your own time. Now, written guides would also be very useful, so I'm just very quickly going to paste these links into the chat box. You don't have to buy these, but if you want to, these are the ones that I recommend, so you can just click on those at the end of the session, and that will give you some practice questions as well. Now, I'm going to give you some links to some useful websites, so a lot of really good maths resources online. In fact, if you find things that I haven't recommended here that you found helpful, let me know, and I'll recommend it in my next session. One of the resources that I think is really, really good is Maths Genie. So use this as you're working through the course materials. It also goes through in grade order. So, for example, if you're working on grades 1 to 2, the kind of the basics of the course, we've got things like addition and subtraction, multiplication and division, and so on. And where you see this link revision, that's a link to a video tutorial. So you can watch a video tutorial, then you can practice some questions, and then you can look at the written solutions for those questions. So this is a really good resource for general revision of GCSE Maths. Another very good site, although this was written for the old GCSE, so you might hear them talk about A, B, C, D grades, this Hegarty Maths site. Neve, yes, you can apply for any entry that you want to. So you decide when you sit your exam. I'll go into exams in a moment. So here you'll find some videos. So to watch the videos on this website, you need to click on this to register. But then once you're registered, you won't get any annoying emails or anything like that. A lot of people ask me about this button here. It says school, but obviously if you're not studying in a school, you just leave that blank, and all you need to do is just tick this box here. So you just click on that other box, and it will just put a tick in there, and then you can make a Hegarty Maths account. A lot of students find bite-sized maths useful. Just pasting these all into the chat box. I know that for people watching live, this is going a little bit quick, but I'll leave time for questions at the end. And another very useful website is this Seneca. You can work through these resources as well, and these are all free. There's one more that I will mention. This isn't free, but a lot of my students use it and find it really good, and it's called Maths Buster. I think it costs $12.99 if you're in the UK. I will put that in there. But you can try a free trial. It's really good. It's got videos. It gives you feedback as you go through. It's got thousands of interactive questions that you can work out as you go through. So that's also a very good resource, as well as all of our resources. So the more practice you can get, the better. Okay, working through our course materials. When you are ready to start learning, you click on My Learning. We've divided up our materials into 4 study units, and they're designed so that they get progressively more mathematically demanding, so that as you work through, you get a real feel for what level you're working at. Now, if you're starting the course and say you've already got a GCSE Maths grade 4 or grade 5, then leave out Unit 1. You can maybe look at it, just spend a week on it. You are in control of your learning. We're not going to tell you what to do. So we've just structured our materials to give you the most freedom and the most options to work through and to know what you're doing as you go through. So if you are already confident with maths, maybe just go straight to the Unit 1 test, complete that, send it to your tutor. If you get a good mark, move on. And similarly, if you find maths quite challenging, you might want to spend a lot longer on Unit 1, Unit 2, maybe dip in and out of Unit 3 and leave out Unit 4 altogether. If you're doing foundation tier, which goes up to a grade 5, you don't need to study Unit 4. You can just leave it out. So Unit 1 mainly targets, and I'll talk a little bit more about grades in a moment, mainly targets grades, I'm skimming out on the time, mainly targets grades 1 to 3, which is old grades E to D. So hopefully for most people this is revision. Hopefully for most people these are all topics that you've heard of, even if you haven't done maths in a very long time. Hopefully you've done them at some point in your school career. Anything that's important is revisited in later units. So you'll notice, for example, you'll start with whole numbers. There's a little bit about calculations as well. So here we've got factors, multiples and primes at the start of Unit 1. Work through, there's about 16 sections in there. So scroll down the page, watch the Unit 1 online lesson recordings, work through the activities, do the test, and then later on, when you go on to Unit 2, Unit 2 mainly targets grades 3 to 4, or grades D to C. And you'll notice at the top here, oh, what do you know? Factors, multiples and primes. But it goes into more detail and it becomes more difficult. It also covers fractions. And so what happens is that all of our units will cover number, algebra, geometry, and statistics. So you'll repeat the topics each time, and each time you learn them, you'll get a better and better understanding, and you'll take it to the next level. So that's how we've structured our materials. If you're doing foundation tier, you'll need to do units 1, 2, and 3 if you can. Unit 3 targets mainly grades 4 to 5, so old grades C to B minus. Allow a few months to cover each unit, and at the end of each unit, cover the test paper at the end. If you want to do the higher tier paper, you'll also need to complete Unit 4. Unit 4 mainly targets grades 6 to 9, which is grades B to A star. And in the same way, just work through. Really, most people will cover 3 units. If you're doing foundation tier, you'll cover units 1, 2, and 3. And if you're doing higher tier, you'll cover units 3, 4, and 5. You can cover some of Unit 1, but if you're aiming for higher tier, Unit 1 will probably be quite easy for you. So it just depends where you're starting from, where you want to end up, and what grade you hope to achieve. Okay. I will go through all of the chat later when the session's finished. There's too many people logged on this evening for me to answer all the questions. I'm glad that Stephen's here to help out. Okay. When you go into your course materials, you'll notice lots of interactive questions like this. So just very quickly to explain how these work, you answer the question, you type your answer in the box, and then you press check. But if you've got no clue how to answer the question, you can just scroll down to the bottom and go to reveal all the answers. Your answers aren't saved, so you can complete the activities as many times as you want. I would also complete them in writing so that you've got a written record of what you wrote down. So no one's marking these, no one's looking at them. They're just there for you to work through and to get a feel for your progression. If there's anything that you're stuck on, if clicking the reveal the answers button doesn't help, just write to your tutor and they'll be able to explain it in more detail, so you can contact your tutor anytime you want. So you type in your answer. If it's not right, it will just say incorrect, and then you can try again. Reveal the answers should be at the bottom of all of those pages, and that will just fill in all the answers like that. And then when you go back to that page, they'll all be gone, and then you can do it again. I'm just seeing a question about lined paper. Don't worry. If you prefer lined paper, use lined paper. Some people like squared paper, and maybe plain paper would be better for some things as well. For example, if you're drawing a pie chart, something you might want to draw circles. So lined paper would be a good starting point because then you can write neatly on it. You'll also notice at the bottom of these you'll get this completion line. Don't worry about that too much. That should just show you how far through you are. No one looks at it, and if you don't want to complete the activity, you don't need to. Just choose which things you feel that you need practice on and work through them. When you get to the end of each unit, there's a test paper. As I mentioned, if you just want to go straight to the test paper, they're very useful because it will be an opportunity for you to get feedback from your tutor. There's a link to the test paper at the bottom of each of your study units, or you can just go straight into the assessment centre. If you click on the assessment centre, you'll see links to each of the test papers there. So you just click on that link to open up the link to the test paper. For maths, I think it's best to either print the test paper out and handwrite in your answers, or if you don't have a printer, read the questions off the screen and write your answers on paper. Then when you've finished, take a clear digital photo of each page. Make sure that it's taken from above and in good lighting so that your tutor can clearly see your answers. Even better if you've got a scanner, scan them and send them in. This is because it's very difficult to type out maths, so don't worry about putting it into a Word document or anything like that. For maths, it's better to handwrite it, and your final exam will be handwritten. On this assessment centre page, you'll also see some mock exam papers, so that's a good thing to go through. So if you scroll down, that will give you the best idea of the kinds of questions that you're asked at both foundation and higher tier. And we've also included written solutions, webinar solutions where they exist, and some YouTube videos where we found them. And I'll be adding to this all the time. At the moment, I think there's 21 papers for each of higher and foundation tier. So I've noticed lots of questions about exams, but I'm sorry I haven't been able to. I'll just have to wait till the end. So let's have a quick look about exams. So now, one thing I should say is you don't have to be within your ICS Learn support period to book and sit your exam. So if you find that you're running out of time, support, don't worry. You sit your exam when you feel ready to sit your exam. If that's within 3 months of starting or 2 years of starting, it's when you feel ready. You're sitting as a private candidate, so you are entering yourself for the exam. We're not doing that. We're your learning providers. We're not entering you for the exam. You can either sit your exam in May, June. Usually there's one paper at the end of May and then 2 in June. So everyone has to sit 3 papers to get their GCSE Maths, and all 3 papers have to be sat in the same exam session and at the same level, so either higher tier or foundation tier. I'm seeing questions popping up, but I can see that the people are answering and helping each other out. So I'm going to ignore the chat. Forget what I said. I'm going to ignore the chat panel for now, and I'll go through questions at the end. You can also sit in the November session. Now, that's usually a reset opportunity, but if you're an older student, if you're above 16, you can still sit in November as long as you can find an exam centre that offers the November session. Not everyone does. Not every centre does. The centre is a school or college, by the way. So you might need to phone around and find somewhere. If you want to sit in the May-June session, please book at the latest by the January before your exam, because the exam centres need to get all of their candidate lists off to the exam board by February. Otherwise, you might have to pay a late booking fee, so make sure that you book your exam in plenty of time. And some places fill up quite quickly, especially if they charge lower fees, because the centres set their own fees, and some of them might have limited places. So make inquiries as soon as you can. Phone around all of your local schools and colleges and just say, do you accept private candidates? Can I sit GCSE Maths with you? If they say no, ask them, do you know anywhere else that can? I think that's the best way, to be quite proactive, get on the phone and find somewhere. So step 1, find a centre that accepts private candidates, because that's what you will be as an ICS Learn student. You then need to tell them what exam you want to sit, including whether you want to sit higher or foundation tier. That might not be over the phone. They'll probably give you a booking form, and then you'll have to fill that booking form in. So this is the information that you'll need to give them. If they say what exam centre is your qualification, Pearson EdXL is the one that we recommend. For maths, if you really can't find a Pearson Edexcel Centre, I suppose you could do AQA or OCR because the syllabus is the same. But the one that we recommend is Pearson Edexcel if you can. You're doing GCSE 9 to 1 mathematics. The 9 to 1 refers to the grading scale. The exam code for Pearson Edexcel is 1MA1. If you can't find it an Edexcel Centre and you end up having to do AQA or OCR, send me an email and I'll look it up and I'll tell you what the specification title and code is. And I would advise that you try past papers for that exam board. But our course materials, for maths specifically, this wouldn't be true for other subjects necessarily, could be okay. And if you're overseas and you have to do IGCSE, send me an email and I will look into the similarities and differences and I'll let you know. So the paper codes for foundations here are 1MA11F, 1MA12F and 1MA13F. So just the code with 1F, 2F and 3F. Similarly for higher tier, same codes but with an H instead of an F, and you'll need to give those paper codes. And you must do either all 3 papers at foundation tier or all 3 papers at higher tier. Some people book the exam, say at higher tier, and then they find a few months later that they've changed their minds. Phone the exam centre, and often they'll let you amend your booking. Sometimes there'll be a fee, it depends how close you are to the actual date. So it's better that you book your exam and reserve your place and then change your mind later on. They might also ask you for a UCI or ULN. That just means your unique candidate identifier or unique learner number, in other words, your candidate number. And this is something, if you've sat exams in the last, I think it's 10 or 15 years, you would have been given a candidate number. If you don't have one anymore, if you can't find it on your old certificates, if you've never sat any exams, contact the exam centre and there should be a database and they should be able to generate one for you. ICS Learn won't be able to do that for you. So here's an overview of how you'll be examined. 3 papers. Paper 1 is non-calculator. Paper 2 and 3 are calculator. And all 3 papers cover all topics in the course. So it's not like you can say what questions, although non-calculator questions might be a little bit different because you're not allowed to use a calculator, they still cover all topics. So that will just spread your chances of getting through. You might have a bad day or a good day, but I wouldn't be able to say to you, paper 2 will cover these topics, paper 3 will cover some different topics. They will cover the same topics from the course, and no way to tell what topics they'll be. Each paper is 1.5 hours long. And each paper is out of 80 marks, and your final grade is based out of your total. So if you have a bad day, you can make up the marks on another paper because they'll add up the 3 papers and they'll give you a total of 240, and that's what they'll base your grade on. Foundation tier, the highest grade you can get is a grade 5, which is like an old B-. Higher tier, the lowest grade you can get is a 4. But if you go just under a 4, then you can get a grade 3. If it's less than that, then you would get unclassified, which is no grade. So the higher tier papers, understandably, are more difficult. But you can get a grade 4 with a lower mark. A grade 4 is like an old GCSE grade C. So this is the new grading scale, if you've not seen it before. If you were doing the foundation tier paper, as an example, half the questions would be at about this level, so a lower grade 3 down to a grade 1. So the first half of the questions would be about that level, so like a grade B to a grade G. And then the second half of the questions would be about this level, so grades 3, 4, 5, so that's the foundation tier. If you were doing a higher tier paper, I'm just going to change the colour here, and go for a blue, then the first half of the paper would be at this level, grades 4, 5 and 6, so grades C to B. And then the second half of the paper, so half the questions on the higher tier paper will be at grades 7, 8 and 9, so the target grades for those questions, A to A star. Does that make sense? Now, someone's just saying there, would it be easier to get a grade 4 at higher tier or foundation tier? In theory, if you're at a grade 4 level, you should be just as likely to get to a foundation tier as you are at higher tier. But if you're at a grade 4 level, I wouldn't recommend doing a higher tier paper because if you look at it, I'll just rub these out. So supposing you're at a grade 4 level and you do a higher tier paper, that's going to be the range of questions on that paper. So you're only going to be able to answer maybe the first 5 or 6 questions on the paper, and then the whole of the rest of the paper will be targeted at a much higher grade level, and you wouldn't be able to answer them. So not only will that make you feel overwhelmed, and you'll feel really bad coming out of the exam, you haven't answered half the questions, even though if you got 50% on this higher tier paper, you would still be getting a grade 6 or 7, which is like an old grade A. I wouldn't recommend it. So if you're at a grade 4 or 5 level, I think it would be much better for you to do the foundation tier exam. You'll find out when you start working through the paper. So although the mark that you need is different, the questions on the higher tier, let me just show you in this diagram, that there is an overlap. So if you were doing foundation tier, it would cover these grades. And if you were doing higher tier, it would cover these grades. So these ones that you can see in the middle, grades 4 to 5, those are called common questions. They'll be common to, so the most difficult questions on the foundation tier will be the hardest, the most difficult questions on the foundation tier will be the easiest questions on the higher tier. But when you get a bit more confident, you cover more of the materials, work through the practice exam papers, the mock exam papers, and that will give you the best idea of which exam you should be sitting. You can also ask your tutor for advice. So this is just an overview of how the grades are distributed across the foundation tier exam. So half the questions are at roughly around grades 1, 2, and 3, and then half the questions will be around grades 3, 4, and 5. And then on the higher tier, half the paper, or half the questions on the paper will be around grades 4, 5, and 6. And then the second half of the questions will be around grades 7, 8, and 9. 9 is above an A star. They're really quite challenging questions. As I said, I can see people chatting. That's fine. I'm not going to get interrupted. Now, to give you an idea of the grade boundaries, this is another thing that people ask me about. Unfortunately, they change every session, but to give you an idea, these are the grade boundaries for the summer 2018 exams, which have just happened. So what this means is the maximum mark for the 3 papers, 240. And these numbers here are, so these numbers that you can see here are the grade boundaries for each of the grade levels. So U means unclassified, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, grade 5, and so on. So if you had done the exams in 2018, you would have needed 136 out of 240 to get a grade 4. So just to give you an idea, so about 57% at foundation tier to get a grade 4, which is equivalent to an old grade C. In 2017, it was closer to 50%, so it does change year on year depending on how difficult the exam was. To get a grade 5, which is like a B- on the same paper, you would have needed 169 out of 240, so about 70% at foundation tier to get a grade 5. Just to give you an idea. If you'd done the higher tier in that same year, you would only have needed 50, which is 21%, 50 out of 240. The reason for the much lower mark is because it's just a much more difficult paper, and that there are more challenging questions on there. So to get a grade 4 on that paper, you would only need 50 altogether across the 3 papers. So that's a total of 50 on the 3 papers, 21% grade C. To get a grade 5, you would have needed 79 out of 240, and so on. To get a grade 9 at higher tier, you would have needed 202 on all 3 papers out of 240. So have a look at that, and that will give you a rough idea of the sorts of marks that you're aiming for. So as you can see, you could just get half of the questions correct at higher tier and still get around a grade A, B, so it's quite a challenging paper. If you want to try some papers, I know I've mentioned this already, but I'll just show you again. If you want to try some practice papers, or if your exams are very soon, go into the assessment centre. I'm just looking at the time. And then scroll down to the bottom. So you'll see the test papers there. Scroll down to the bottom of the page, and you'll see there that I've uploaded 21 papers for foundation tier. Scroll down further, you'll see 21 papers for higher tier. If you click here, that will download the blank paper. If you click here, that will download the official mark scheme to show you how the marks are allocated for all of the questions. If you click here, you will see some examples of written solutions. Your written solutions might look a little bit different, but this is just one way that you might set out your answers. There are some WebEx links for some webinars that I did last year, but I will keep adding to those. And where I could find them, some video links. So one way of working through these might be to print out the blank paper and work through it while watching the video, and that will give you a real feel for how to answer the questions. Once you know how to answer the questions, try the paper again, maybe in a few months' time in exam conditions, and see how much you can do then. So use these as a learning resource. They'll be very helpful to you as you work through. Okay, that's me just about reached the end. I did say it would take me up to about an hour. Everyone who's watching live, I realise that I've been going through very quickly, but I will send you all a link to the recorded version of this as soon as it's ready, so sometime in the morning. So, oh sorry, you're from the Caribbean, grade 4, looking for a different units, recorded video, teacher is very clear, needs to understand aim for a higher grade. Fantastic. So if you've already got a grade 4, as I said, then feel free to skip over the unit 1 lesson. Start at unit 2, maybe just use them for revision and go through them quite quickly, and focus all your efforts on unit 3 and unit 4 to push yourself forward. So you are in control of your learning. We're not going to make, we're not really while we are teaching you, but we're not telling you what to do. We're here just to help you in any way that we possibly can. So we're here to facilitate your learning rather than to tell you what to do. So if you want to push yourself towards a higher grade, focus on that higher tier. I will be covering mock papers again towards the end of the year. I'm also doing mock papers with some students that enrolled on a different version of the course, so I'll be updating those recorded versions as I do them. But I will be doing some more mock papers towards the summer exams, probably around April, May next year. I'm not answering all of the questions here, I'm just picking out the ones I can see. Too many people logged on today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Neve, you're good at most math. So Neve, I would really then go into the assessment centre and focus on working through those practice mock papers. The hardest thing I think with these mock exams is completing everything in one and a half hours. I wouldn't be able to complete a higher tier paper in 1.5 hours. I've tried it and it takes me about 2 hours at least. Being neat to complete all of the questions, it's really, really hard. So try working through them in test conditions, and then once you've worked through it and marked it, your tutor won't mark the test, but you can ask them for help with any of the individual questions. Then just keep trying it again. Make sure that you correct any mistakes that you've made so that you learn how to answer that question for next time. So Neve, complete the paper. Yeah, I think paper practice is really useful, and I will add to those links as more papers become available. Best way to learn times tables. I am not very good at times tables myself. I mean, I don't know if I'm being controversial. I'm not sure that learning times tables is really going to be that useful. It might come up a little bit on the non-calculator paper. It might help with things like cancelling fractions. And I think what you'll find is as you work more and more with maths, you'll become more familiar with times tables. I think sitting there and learning them off by heart, there's better things that you could be doing with your time at this level, really. So I wouldn't really worry about that. It's much more important to understand the topic work and the more advanced materials if you want a good grade. You could do a GCSE Maths exam and not know any times tables at all and still get a grade A. Arithmetic becomes less and less important the more advanced the maths. So there's lots of games and things like that online that I'm aware of, but I couldn't really help you specifically. Have a look around, Google it and see what you can find. Or go to the Talk to Other Students section. That might be a good way of asking other people what they found useful. I have been doing maths my whole life and I'm still not great at knowing all my times tables. Time, distance, speed calculations, yes, they do come up, and I do cover them in some of my online lessons. It comes under compound measures. So yes, speed, distance, time, definitely. You do need to know that, and also speed, distance, time graphs. So you'll be working with distance time graphs as you go through as well. And we usually use a formula triangle, so just like the one that you would see in physics. The most difficult thing about those speed distance time problems is converting between hours and minutes and seconds. But I do go through that in some of my online lessons. Trigonometry, yes, you now do need trigonometry for foundation tier, SOHCAHTOA, so we go through that in Unit 3. So if you go through onto Unit 3, you'll see Pythagoras and trigonometry is covered there at a more basic level. And then when you go onto higher tier, you'll do more advanced trigonometry. You'll do the sine rule, the cosine rule, which is also covered in A-level maths. So if you're planning to go on and do A-level maths later on, the trigonometry there can get quite advanced. Just seeing a question from Lee. What grade did you get at GCSE? At GCSE, I actually did do GCSEs in 1989, and I was one of the first groups of students who actually did GCSEs from the old A levels, so it was still quite experimental in those days. I got an A, so I was good at maths. And in my mock exam, I got 100%. I don't know what I got in my real exam. So they must have been. I think it would be impossible nowadays to get 100% in a GCSE maths exam. So they must have actually got harder. So I think when GCSEs first started, they were a bit easier than O levels. But they've definitely. I've seen lots of changes over the years. And yes, I did do A level as well, and I did a degree. I got a 2-2 in my degree. Not top of the class, but you know, I'm not a genius at maths by any means, and I know how hard it can be to learn maths. So I find maths really very easy until I was about 16, and then when I started doing A level, it becomes a lot more difficult. I think there aren't many people that find A level maths easy. I didn't find A level maths easy, but yes, I did do it. YouTube, practice maths, stick. Yep, 1989. Yep, 1989. Higher paper by June 18. It's definitely feasible depending on what your starting point is. So yeah, it's so hard to say because there's so many factors involved. It depends on what your starting point is. It depends on I hate to say this, but some people find maths much easier than others, so some people might just need to work a lot harder at it. You will definitely get there if you're determined and you work hard. I did have a student this year who got a grade 9, Gemma. So she did brilliantly. She did it in 1 year. She wasn't at all confident with maths when she started, but she was really hard working, and she's one of those students who was in touch with me a lot and asked me lots of questions, and she did get a grade 9, so it's certainly possible if that's your aim. Robert, GCSE 9, you must be about the same age as me then. Yeah, I mean, it's really unfair. So some people need, I think the kinds of people that need to work really hard on maths, I find sometimes are the people that kind of overcomplicate it. I think some people just can't see the woods for the trees, and sometimes you just need to realise that it's not as difficult as it seems, and it will just click into place. And once it clicks and you understand it, it will seem really easy. So you just need to get on with it. The more maths you do, the easier it will become just generally. So you know, plug away. It might be hard at first, but please don't give up. We've got so many successful students with ICS Learn. Teaching yourself maths at home, although we're doing everything that we can to help you, is really empowering because we've got lots of students who are adult learners that find maths really difficult at school, and then they come onto this course and they think, right, I'm just going to do this, and they get brilliant marks, and it's just fantastic. The students that get those marks, I've heard from so many students over these past few weeks that are just so happy to finally get, even if they get a grade C, or it doesn't matter if it's only grade 4 or grade 5, you know, that's an achievement for them. So you will get it if you put the hours in. You'll definitely make it. Your 4th try. Well, it's a little bit like a driving test, you know. I say to people, you can just do it again and again and again. Sometimes it will just take a few more tries, but you will make it eventually. And I'll do everything that I can to help you, but you must get in touch with me if you need help. Please don't ever. It's my full-time job. It's all I do is helping ICS Learn students with maths. Well, not completely all I do, but nearly. So please do get in touch with me. Don't ever feel like you're wasting my time with it. It's what I love to do, and I've been doing it for a long time. So please do get in touch. Get in touch with your tutors. Stephen's there, he'll agree. Ian's there, Ailey's there, and we're all just waiting on your questions and your calls. Okay, yes, it is getting very late, so I'm just going to end the recording now. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming along. Thanks for everyone for being so friendly, and for all your questions. There's a few more people than normal. I think it's because I started doing the sessions at 8 o'clock at night. But I don't mind, it's fine. I'm more of a night owl anyway. So great to have so many of you along. Sorry I couldn't keep up with all of the questions coming in. I will go through and I'll read all of the chat carefully at the end. So if there's any questions that I've missed, I'll email you and let you know, because I can get them all from the recorded version. So I'm going to stop the recording now. If you've enjoyed the session, if you found it helpful, or if at any time you want to write as a review, just please, most of our students use Trustpilot, so if you click on that link in the chat box, don't forget to mention my name, tell me what you thought of the webinar session, and how you're feeling about getting started, or just email me direct. You've got my email address there. Feel free to just email me anytime. I love hearing from everyone. mathsteacher@icslearn.co.uk, and if you want to contact Stephen or Ailey or Ian if they're your tutors, then please just go to your Connect and Communicate page and contact them there. Hope you enjoyed the course. Thank you very much for joining me. Bye-bye.